The Firearms Control Amendment Bill, which seeks to enhance the current Firearms Control Act, is at an advanced stage in the Office of the Civilian Secretariat of Police. How's it, guys? Welcome to our first episode today. I'm Tim Flack, and this is a Legally Armed podcast. Today we've got Hardus Els and Barnu van der Heever. Hardus is from NATSHOOT, as you can see, and Barnu is from Legally Armed. So we're going to do, with that introduction out of the way, we're going to chat to Hardus and ask him about NATSHOOT and what they do, what they provide to their members, and how you can become a member of NATSHOOT. So Hardus, over to you. Tell us a little bit about NATSHOOT, what you guys do, how long have you guys been around for, and what the benefit of being a member of NATSHOOT is.
Yeah, hello Tim, hello Barnu, hello listeners. NATSHOOT is an accredited association with SAPS via dedicated status for hunting and sport shooting. That at the bottom line is for firearm ownership on the end of the day. We're there for the busy businessman that does not always have time to get around on all shooting social days, such as other respective firearm organizations and associations. In a nutshell, we're there to help and assist people getting firearm licenses, and by keeping them responsible and also maintaining that, and via collaboration with respective organizations such as Legally Armed, that is nationally posted around South Africa, that also assists us with those processes hand in hand. So is there anything else in terms of what we can tell the listeners about NATSHOOT, Tim? What else do you want to know?
So basically what I've seen is that in order to join NATSHOOT, you have to go to the website, you become a member, you pay your fees, and everything is 100% digital. So everything is reliant on me as the member to submit my targets. To even the exams are done online as well. So it makes things a hell of a lot easier for me who's sitting in a rural area. I don't have to actually go physically to a certain spot or a shop somewhere to be able to do it. That everything's based online. So what gave you guys the idea to have everything online based, and has it been, how successful is it? Do you have people having problems with doing it, or have you found that it's quite easy and members are easy to use, able to use the platform quite easily?
If I can come in there, I think it will be better for me to answer it than others, because we're working on a daily basis with applications, with NATSHOOT members applications. So sitting here, I pretty much know the system, and I can tell you, working with all the organizations, I must say NATSHOOT's system is very, very user-friendly, especially with the app that they brought out. Now, myself yesterday did the reloading chart for my 243, and it was easy. After I shot my target, I went on the app, take a photo, finish everything that the app asked me. Today I got the email activity loaded. So it is really user-friendly from a user side and from a sports shooter or a hunter side. What I would say to the listeners, and if they are NATSHOOT members, please, guys, go onto your personal portfolio on the back office of NATSHOOT and see what they offer. Because we as Legally Armed see that the members of NATSHOOT doesn't get to their personal page a lot. And if they just can see what NATSHOOT offers them, I think they'll really learn a lot from NATSHOOT, because NATSHOOT is really a good organization. And Hardus, as the CEO, is doing a lot for its members, and not only for its members, for the whole shooting community. Even if you're a member of other association, Hardus got a vision where he wants to take NATSHOOT and the shooting community of South Africa, which I think is brilliant.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's actually great. So with the app, you don't even have to scan the target and put it into a PDF format. You can just take a picture of it and upload it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's quite easy. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier for people, because some of the target sizes are quite large, and you get some people who seem to think that it's not going to be so easy for them to scan targets in. But if you can just download the app and use that as a way to take a photo of the target, it's going to make things it makes it even more easier to maintain your status, which is great. Oh, that's fantastic. So in the pipeline, Hardus, what have you guys got planned for this year? What have you got any events planned, or do you have is there a standard sort of routine of certain things and activities that happen with NATSHOOT?
Yes, Tim. Look, on the end of the day, the basis of the activities in terms of firearm related activities, in that sense, is based upon the Firearms Control Act. So participation with your firearms is very important, and the focus is not so stringent in terms of competitions in itself. It's purely just by using your firearms wherever you are, at registered shooting ranges and so forth, so that you can build up a shooting register for future applications on firearm renewals, as well as new applications. So that's the big part in this. Yeah, in terms of events itself, NATSHOOT has always been in that sense of collaborating with other organizations and entities to bring more options to the members, whether they want to participate in a social type of event or as an individual. The options on the table is there for them to choose from, and not being put aside because they don't fit into one box or the other. There's a plethora of activities that one can use towards the maintenance of your dedicated status. That number one, and not so sorely in terms of maintaining your dedicated status, because in my opinion, to maintain dedicated status, that's fairly straightforward and convenient. I mean, if you look at 2 activities per status that you have, for instance, in NATSHOOT's policy, that by putting in 2 activities for hunting status and 2 activities for sport shooting status, that's let's say that's easier to maintain it. But the important thing to me is not the fact in terms of dedicated status in itself, but by keeping on with your shooting activities, regardless if you have dedicated status or not, because the time will come when you need to renew your firearm license.
Yes.
And that, in the sense, if you go and have a look at the Firearms Control Act, more between sections 24 and 28 in terms of renewal of those said licenses, it clearly stands and states that you need to show participation throughout the license period that you have or that you had, and based on those experiences or participation events, the police have perspective and background in terms of giving good reason to renew that license. So that's the more important part for me on the end of the day. yeah, and new type of ventures for NATSHOOT. We've joined up with ELRSA, that's Extended Long Range Shooting South Africa, where NATSHOOT members can go and participate in those type of events, and also it's also upkeep of the shooting registers and activities. And not all NATSHOOT members want to, as said previously, that not all members' interest is in extended long range shooting activities, but there's now also space for people to go and participate in those type of events. And then the other organization is National Rifle League, or better known as NRL. There's two divisions which they have, and it's very well managed by Ben Louis and the right-hand man, Chris de Pre. That they manage the system very good. It's yeah. I mean, on the end of the day, the two divisions that they have is NRL Hunter. It's very much based on a hunting type of background exercise that gives one perspective by using the equipment that you have at hand, and putting that into action. And to give you more perspective in terms of that, on the NRL Hunter side, by going to a shooting range and sighting in your rifle on a target just before hunting season, and to shoot a 1 inch or 2 inch group for that matter, and to say, okay, that you are set to go in terms of the scope setting side. One tends to forget that if you shoot a 2 inch group on 100 meters from a bench, it's quite different when you're sitting in the hunting field shooting from a prone, kneeling, or standing position. When you get into that practical side of things. So NRL Hunter gives that opportunity for NATSHOOT members to go and participate in those type of events, which I must say it's very fun to do. I personally am very hooked on that activity. It gives me the opportunity to use my hunting sticks, to use my rangefinder, and to use my rifle in combination, and also keeps you into good practice for the hunting season that comes up. So that's the one side. And then the other side that they have is NRL.22, which is also a very fun family get together. I mean, in the last year, we with National Rifle League started with a .22. We are very fortunate that they have given us the opportunity to join them and to grow the sport with them. I've noticed there's quite a lot of families, Ma, Pa, Boetie, Sissy, everyone participating in those type of events. We had the National Rifle League .22 championships, I think 2 weeks ago, which there was 2 families that entered for the very first time, even though it's a championship match, but regardless, and they had a blast. So it creates the opportunity to spend time with your loved ones, and to do it on a safe and responsible manner. So yeah, that part and parcel in terms of shooting events for NATSHOOT is one of the things that we're looking at. And then we are starting with shooting events throughout with collaboration with SAGA, South African Gun Owners Association, and putting more options on the table on the end of the day for the members if they want to participate or not. It's on their choice. We don't push people into a corner to say what they need to do, so that they have freedom of choice. So that's our bottom line, is there to help people. That's number one. Number two is also to stand with organizations mentioned, and with legally armed, and to build the shooting fraternity in its whole, so that we can create sustainability, so that we can create a better future for our children and for ourselves, to become stronger together. Yes, so that's what we do, work with like-minded people.
Oh, that's great.
Sorry, Tim, if I just can come in here, Hardus said a mouthful. I just want to say something from legally armed side. Hardus pointed out on a very important fact, is that the people must go out to shoot their firearms. What we experience in the field is guys are coming up for a renewal, say for a Section 13, which is a self-defense firearm. All right. And then the firearm has been lying in his safe for 5 years. He never touched it. Now, we as South Africans must know there is people that doesn't want firearms in South Africa. And if we're not going to be responsible firearms owners, then you don't need a firearm. If you want to have a firearm, please go use days like NATSHOOT is setting up for its members, and go and practice with your firearm. When you get into a situation where you need to use the firearm, you're going to know. I promise you, if you're going to take your firearm out, you haven't used it for 5 years, and you're suddenly in a situation of life and death, I don't think you're going to be able to use it. So it's very important to support the days that NATSHOOT, or even all the organizations, is organizing for its members. Go and practice with your firearms, please, and log the activities. It makes it easier when we apply for the renewal of licenses.
Absolutely, yeah, that's really important. And I've been in meetings with a hall full of people, and I've said to them, "How many of you have firearms?" And almost everyone puts their hands in the air, and then and they're all quite proud to say that. And then you say to them, "How many of you have got that firearm on you right now?" And then you'll have maybe 5 or 6 hands that go up, and the rest of them, you ask them, where is your firearm? And they'll all tell you it's in the safe. And I've always said to people, having your personal defense firearm in the safe is as useless as the G in lasagna. It's not going to benefit you at all. If you've got a Section 13 firearm, you've got a Section 13 firearm for self-defense, and you need to get used to carrying that firearm around. And I've also, in terms of self-defense, I've said to people, there's no point in getting a 44 Magnum long barreled revolver for self-defense. You can't carry that on you. It's too big. You need to have for your personal carry firearm. It needs to be something that's compact, like a Glock 43X or a Glock 43 or a Glock 19 for that matter. But carrying a large firearm is not going to help you. You get a lot of guys wanting a Beretta or a Z88 as a personal defense firearm. That's a military and police firearm. It's not going to be comfortable, and after 2 weeks, you're going to get hot full of carrying the thing, and you're going to put it back in the safe again. And when it sits in the safe, it's only going to gather dust and rust, and you're not going to be competent in shooting it. Which brings me to the next point that I wanted to say. For me personally, I like to at least get out to the range 3 times a week to just put rounds down range, practice my draw, that sort of stuff, and get some time on the range. If as a NATSHOOT member, does that count as towards my status? For example, if I've got 2 firearms, I've got one for sport shooting and the other one just for self-defense. If I go to the range and I use my firearm, my Section 16 pistol for shooting at the range, doing that weekly shooting, does that count towards my dedicated status?
Yes, of course it does. Any firearm related activity that you do, regardless if it's with your Section 13 firearm or not, it counts towards the maintenance of your dedicated status. That's the easy part in terms of that. You hear that I'm reluctant to say easy, but I mean, we can call it what it is. I mean, easy is also a very relative term. I mean, easy for me to ride 100 kilometers on a bicycle, and
Yeah.
for you it's not. So that's why I say it's relative. But in terms of maintaining your dedicated status, on the end of that is you can do that easily. And then on the second part that I want to add on to what you and Bernu has stated now in terms of self-protection, is not just by carrying or having your self-protection firearm with you, but actually getting out and using it. Because the more you use it and the more competent you become in terms of that. And I mean, just to also mention that I've seen a post by Billy Rosley from Magnum United Shooting Range. I think it's a few months ago already. But irrespective, he had a class that was free for that weekend.
Yes.
So I'm not 100%. So don't keep me to my words, but let's say he opened the free training session for that weekend. There was 34, 35 guys that registered and said that they're coming. And then on the day itself, only 5 people came through and came and participated on that day.
Yeah.
And one of his comments was the fact that we are staying in a very dangerous country, which is a fact. Everyone knows that. It comes down to the point that we have got 2 choices. That's my words. We've got 2 choices. Either we do something about that, option number 1, by using our firearm frequently. It is also another challenge that we have, because it costs money. So if I go and shoot a few rounds this week and I need to go and do it next week, we don't necessarily have to shoot, but we need to do it regularly so that we know in what type of condition our firearms are when we carry it, being condition number 1, 2, 3, or 4 is another option, but mainly by the first 3 options. Because if you don't use it, then you fall over onto the second option. And that second option is by doing nothing, and you get lucky if you are not harmed in any situation. But I mean, most of us, and that's a thumbs up, 95% of all South Africans can at least say that they were in a horrible situation that we do not want any other person to be in, or that they at least know of one person close to them that were in a situation.
Yes, yeah.
So it's a very fine line in terms of what it is, but it is a reality regardless.
Yeah.
If it's natural or not.
Hardus, I just quickly want to say last thing, the listeners must have heard I'm a boertjie, Afrikaanse boertjie, so my English is not that lekker, nee. But when I bought my handgun, I grew up with rifles.
Yeah.
You can give me a rifle, I can go and shoot. But I was uncomfortable with my handgun.
Yeah.
So I made an effort to go for specialized training. And I'm telling you, what I learned there is invaluable for me for using my firearm. So and now I've learned it, but to maintain it, I need to practice. Even if you go home and dry fire, my instructor told us, go practice at home, dry fire, your draw, everything. So it's not necessary to go to the range every time. You can practice at home also by dry fire.
Absolutely.
But you need to go for the training to know this.
Yeah, and carrying a personal firearm for self-defense, there's certain things that you need to know how to do. We carry it for self-defense, and when do we more than likely, or when are we more than likely going to need our firearms? When we're coming home, when we're in our homes for home invasions, or when we're driving in our vehicle. for hijacking situations. A lot of people don't know how to draw their firearm with a seatbelt on from a seated position, and then how to shoot from that position at a stop street. That's something that you've actually got to learn how to do that. It becomes things that you have to know how to do. And if you're in that situation and you've never done it before, there's going to be a problem. You're going to fumble. Talking about hijackings, we'll move on to the next sort of segment. Recently, there was a court ruling that came through. I'm going to just bring that article up quickly and just read it to you guys, or certain sections of it. But basically, in Pretoria, a man who acted in self-defense when he shot 3 robbers dead who were trying to hijack him and a family member in Bloemfontein, Johannesburg, was acquitted on 3 charges of murder. The court found that the pair were threatened and that the man had acted reasonably at that time. A judge sitting at the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg said a judge must be careful not to assess the events like an armchair critic, which was quite important. I think it's good that he said that, because some of the judges may have not been in these situations before, and they're quite quick to pass judgment or make assumptions about what it's like to be in that situation, and they've never seen what it's like. But basically, Mohammed Ibrahim faced 3 charges of murder after he did not hesitate to shoot at 3 men who confronted him and his cousin while they were on their way to buy hunting equipment. Ibrahim told the court that he was fetched by his cousin in a Mercedes-Benz. And this event happened in July 3rd, 2013. So if you're involved in a self-defense shooting and things don't work out all that well, I mean, this only went to court now in 2023. So it's 10 years later, which is, I think, ridiculous. But on their way to the shop, they stopped next to the road, and a Golf GTI stopped in front of them, and a man wearing a balaclava emerged with a gun pointed at his cousin. And basically a shooting incident happened where Ibrahim shot all 3 guys dead. He said that he had no choice but to shoot in self-defense, and he accepted that someone could have been killed, but he denied that he had pulled the occupants out of the Golf and that he shot them while they were lying on the ground. A witness, apparently a witness of the area in the case, was found to be unreliable. And her testimony was thrown out. But basically, this guy got off, and the judge said that he acted in self-defense. So hijackings in South Africa seem to be quite common. I know in Cape Town, where I am, hijackings are on the up. Every day, I'm hearing about hijackings happening on a regular basis. I don't know about where you guys are in Bloemfontein and Pretoria. But it seems to be more common. So that's why I want to emphasize going back to learning how to shoot from a sitting position in your vehicle. It makes a big difference. Yeah, what do you guys think about this? Have you guys got any incidences that have maybe happened to you personally, or that you know about, of people who have been involved in a hijacking and successfully defended themselves?
If I can come in there, I haven't been, and I don't know somebody, but something very important that you read in the judgment is that the guy acted like like anybody in a reasonable would have acted. So that is a very important thing. Whenever you use a firearm, even if it's your section 15 or 16 handgun in a self-defense matter, the court will always rule on the reasonable man test. Did you use the firearm correctly? I mean, if you use your firearm and you shoot a guy in the back running away, is that reasonable?
No,
I understand. So for the listeners out there, remember, whenever you're in a situation drawing your firearm, and you've got questions afterwards, did you act like the reasonable man did? And if you've got a good lawyer, you should be able to get away scot-free. Of course, there's this big thing about a metro now in Pretoria. If you've got your section 15 firearm carrying, you get into a roadblock, they say you're not allowed to carry. You are allowed to. The act is very, very, very straight about that. You are allowed to carry your Section 15 or 16 firearm.
Yes.
Why do you need a Section 13 if you already got a 9mm for Section 15? Why do you need a 9mm for Section 13?
Yes, yeah.
You can carry it. But
Yeah,
that is where the ruling is going to go. The reasonable man test.
Yeah, when it comes to the Section 15 and 13 stuff that the guys are coming with, there's a reasonable usage clause in each one of those sections anyway. So if I'm sitting and I'm cleaning my AR-15 Section 16 rifle at home and someone is breaking into the back door, I'm not going to shout at him, oh, just hang on, let me put my rifle away without the magazine in it and go and get my pistol first so that I can use it. It's ridiculous. But yeah, Barney, have you heard of any situations of self-defense shootings or anything like that were successful? Because there seemed to be a lot of this, I call it braai talk. People sit around braais and they talk about.
I personally know a guy that was in a shooting accident, but that wasn't a hijacking. It was at home, and he was shot at and he shot back, and he didn't even know if he hit the guy. And after everything and the police were there, they got blood on the scene, and they followed the blood the blood trail, and they found the guy dead a few hundred meters from where everything happened. And it was obviously there's going to be a case opened. That is normal procedure from the police. The listeners must know there's going to be a case open. That's normal procedure.
Yeah, even if someone's on your property and they trip and fall down your stairs and die, there's still going to be an unnatural death inquiry made open. There's going to be a case opened. If you were standing upstairs while the person was walking downstairs and they fall and they break their neck, they've got to find out that person died by tripping rather than you pushing them. It's just the nature of it. All right, so we're going to be looking at what's going on in Parliament as part of the show. What I'm going to do once a week is try at least to get questions through to members of Parliament that can be asked in the National Assembly of the Police Minister or in the Police Ministry at least, so we can find out what's going on. One of the things that I stumbled across a couple of weeks ago, and it's been... This question was asked on the 9th of February 2023. It's question 122, and the question is from Miss Z Majosi from the IFP, and she asked the Minister of Police, what is the total number of stolen firearms recovered by SAPS in 2022, and B, what are the sustainable measures that SAPS has put in place to tighten firearms law for 2023 and beyond? The answer came from a Lieutenant General from Vispol and Operations, and the answer was such. What did he say? Reply. For the current financial year, 1st April 2022 to 31 December 2022, a total of 3,316 firearms were recovered. They don't break it down to details. Problem with a lot of the MPs is that they don't ask these questions and ask for breakdowns of certain things. So basically all she did was say, what are the total number of firearms that were recovered by SAPS? She didn't ask how many of those were SAPS firearms, or how many of those were civilian firearms, how many of those were zip guns. None of that stuff gets broken down to you. So part of what we're going to do is try and post these questions in a way that we get as much detail out of them as possible, because they have to be answered, which is really, really cool. What we see is the second answer, and we're going to put this up on the screen for you guys to read, and this is the most alarming part. The Lieutenant General replies with, the Firearms Control Amendment Bill, which seeks to enhance the current Firearm Control Act, is at an advanced stage in the Office of the Civilian Secretariat of Police. So this sends warning bells. I don't think it has been picked up by anyone yet. Like I said, this question was posed in February. It looks like the Civilian Secretariat has made amendments or changed the previous bill for the Firearms Control Amendment Act, and this is a worrying thing, and it's something that we need to pay attention to. I'm going to try and see if we can get a copy of that so we can see what's going on. The unfortunate problem is that the last time they brought a Firearms Control Amendment Bill that we fought so hard against, it tried to do away with Section 13 as a means for owning a firearm. So they try to take away self-defense as a reason to own a firearm. So your Section 13 firearms would fall away. That's a huge problem, especially in South Africa. So something we need to pay attention to. I'll keep an eye on this. I'll try and see if I can get hold of the draft amendment bill that they've got, and see if we can get eyes on what's actually going on there. So something that's really, really important, and it seems to only happen when this kind of thing happens, is that as gun owners, we start supporting organizations like Saga, NATSHOOT, and that sort of stuff when the poo hits the fan. And it's important that we continuously monitor these things and continuously support organizations like Saga, NATSHOOT, NARFU, Legally Armed, SADA if you're a dealer. It's really, really important that we keep supporting these organizations, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be bringing court action to try and stop these kind of things from coming into place. And they are the guys who are engaging on a regular basis with Parliament and with the Minister of Police and with the Civilian Secretariat of Police. Recently, we've had some good headway with the Civilian Secretariat of Police. Unfortunately, they don't seem to want to play ball. It's all nice around the table. Everyone works together, and it's smiles and handshakes. But then surprises come out of the woodworks when it comes to bills that have been released. So we need to look at these things, pay attention to them. And what I want to do is encourage everyone to go to firearms rights organizations. You've got Saga, you've got GOSA, you've got NARFU, you've got NATSHOOT. If you're a dealer, you can go to SADA. Join these organizations, support them financially, become a paid up member, because your membership fees contribute to a lot. Some of the organizations, people will say that they don't hear much from. It's important you don't hear much from them because you're not a paid up member. If you're a paid up member, you get a weekly newsletter. You find out what's actually going on. I know, for example, I'm a Saga member myself. I get a Saga snippets update on what's going on. They are constantly busy fighting for things, putting things together, class action suits. Recently there was a problem with license cards that there was an issue, and for their members they've said, look, send us an email, let's see what we can do about your license card that is taking its time, and they're very successful about it. So yeah, let's support these guys. Let's get behind this, and let's make sure that this Firearms Control Amendment Bill doesn't come to fruition, because in all sense of the word, the Firearms Control Act on its own isn't necessarily, in my opinion, a bad piece of legislation. Some people would disagree with me totally. I don't think it's a bad piece of legislation. I just think there's a problem with enforcement of the legislation. SAPS is failing to enforce the legislation and implement a lot of the things that are there. So it's things that we need to pay attention to. Keep an eye on this bill. Keep an eye on the channel. And with that, thanks for tuning in. We will have a new episode up in the next 2 weeks for you guys. We'll try and keep it as informative as possible, and keep you guys informed about what's going on in the shooting world in South Africa, and how Legally Armed is there to help clients to attain firearms licenses responsibly, to do their competencies. There's branches all around the country. Just head to our website, legallyarmed.co.za, check for your branch in your area. There are quite a few shops all over the country. So if you need to get your competency done, head to a Legally Armed branch, get your competency sorted out, get it done, get it handed into the police, get licensed, get armed, and keep safe. Thank you for tuning in. This is Legally Armed, Locked, Loaded, and Lawful, and we will be back in the next couple of weeks with a new episode, and we'll try and keep you informed, as informed as possible. If you've got some suggestions about what you'd like to see on the channel, drop a comment in the bottom. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss one. As far as I know, I don't think there's any other channel like this at the moment, so we're going to try and keep this up and keep you guys in the loop about what's going on. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.